Alright, let's talk about Russian oligarchs. These aren't your friendly neighborhood millionaires, we're talking mega-rich, politically connected individuals who hold immense power. Think of them like the mafia, but with fancier suits and worse haircuts. They rose to prominence in the chaos following the collapse of the Soviet Union. See, when the communist system crumbled, state-owned assets were suddenly up for grabs. Now imagine a massive fire sale, but instead of discount toasters, its entire industry's being sold off for pennies on the ruble. That's basically what happened. These well-connected individuals, many former Communist Party officials, swooped in and snatched up these assets at ridiculously low prices. They became overnight billionaires, controlling vast swaths of the Russian economy. This sudden shift to capitalism, fueled by insider dealing and questionable privatization practices, created a system ripe for exploitation, and exploit they did, accumulating unimaginable wealth and influence. It was like a real-life game of Monopoly, but with actual consequences for the Russian people. Now let's bring in the Americans. Because no story about questionable financial dealings is complete without Wall Street getting involved. In the mid-1990s, Wall Street saw a golden opportunity in Russia. They saw a country desperate for investment, with a brand new stock market and a seemingly endless supply of natural resources. What could possibly go wrong? So, they bundled up these risky Russian assets, slapped on some lipstick, and sold them to investors as the next big thing. These investments, fueled by high interest rates and the promise of huge returns, poured money into the Russian economy. But here's the thing, much of this money ended up lining the pockets of the oligarchs, further consolidating their power and influence. It was a classic case of Wall Street chasing profits, turning a blind eye to the corruption and inequality festering beneath the surface. For a while the party raged on. Oil prices soared, the Russian economy boomed, and the oligarchs were laughing all the way to the bank. But as with all good parties, this one couldn't last forever. When oil prices crashed, the house of cards came tumbling down. Remember those risky investments Wall Street had been peddling? Yeah, they weren't looking so hot anymore. The Russian economy went into a tailspin, the ruble collapsed, and the country defaulted on its debt. The oligarchs, who had become accustomed to living large on borrowed money, suddenly found themselves in a tight spot. This crisis exposed the fragility of the Russian economy and the unsustainable nature of the oligarchs' wealth. It also highlighted the dangers of unchecked greed and the perils of putting profits before people. Enter Vladimir Putin, stage right. In the aftermath of this economic chaos, Putin, a former KGB agent, emerged as a beacon of stability. He promised to restore order, crack down on corruption, and make Russia great again. And to be fair, he did make some initial moves against the oligarchs, seizing assets and jailing a few high-profile figures. But here's the catch. Putin wasn't dismantling the oligarch system, he was simply taking control of it. He offered the oligarchs a deal: loyalty in exchange for protection. Those who played ball got to keep their wealth and influence, while those who stepped out of line faced the wrath of the Kremlin. Under Putin, the power dynamic shifted. The oligarchs were no longer calling the shots. They were dancing to Putin's tune. They became tools of the state, their wealth and influence used to advance Putin's political agenda. The era of the independent oligarch was over. Putin had tamed the beasts, turning them into obedient pets.